Spoilerin time. Welcome back, folks. If you're new here, you might already know this, but Cord Killers is our other show where we figure out how to watch things in this crazy cord cutting world. And then we come here and talk about the stuff we watch. This week, we'll be spoiling Barry, season 3, episode 8, the finale, The Boys, episodes 1 through 4, and Obi-Wan, season 1, episode 4. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Hey, I'm Brian Brushwood. I'm going to save all of us some time and say, let's start with Obi-Wan.
Let's start with Obi-Wan. Oh, see, I wasted the time you saved me. I'm sorry. Obi-Wan, season 1, episode 4. Well, the good news is it was 38 minutes long, Brian.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to a wonderful phrase that will keep a lot of friends and turn off virtually nobody. Let's all practice saying, it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me.
It wasn't for me.
It wasn't for me.
It wasn't for me.
Also, I disagree.
Me?
Do I disagree? I disagree? I don't know. What do you?
I'm in a weird spot with Obi-Wan because I do a show called Let's Talk About Star Wars with Jenny Josephson and Garrett Weinzierl, who are wonderful co-hosts. I have a great time doing the show with them. They are enjoying the crap out of this show, and I'm not enjoying it as much as them. So on that show, it's me playing along of like, oh, well, here's what I like. Here's what I like. Then I come over here and I'm pretty sure Brian is pretty close to how I feel about it, but I know you enjoy it less than me.
Well, let me be kind first. Boy, oh boy, it is gorgeous. If you told me there would be a Star Wars TV show that looked better than the movies, I love it. Now, parts I like less are the fact that it's the same tropes over and over again. But then I think, guess what? That was when you were 8 or 10 or 12. You're now nearly 50. Guess what, Brian? This show isn't for you. Say it out loud, Brian. It's not for me. How did that feel? It felt really good, actually. Say it again. It's not
for me.
For me. And it's like, are you angry at it? No. Why would I be angry at it? It's not for me. It's simplistic and silly, and it makes unnecessary nods to the prequels, and it implies that the Empire has a stupid hierarchy based on a world that never discovered cell phones. But that's fine. You know why, Tom? It's not for me.
It's not for me. It's not for me. I don't know that I would go so far as to say it's not for me because I didn't mind this episode. There was some fun parts of it. I like what is for me is seeing the references to A New Hope. To seeing the sort of like, this is maybe why Obi-Wan was so confident and easygoing about the Death Star, because he'd done this sort of thing before. We sort of saw it in the prequels, but this is very clearly modern Enterprise architecture that he's figured out how to do. It's why Leia was so confident in Obi-Wan saving them, because she'd been through it with him before. There are lots of little nuggets that I took from this where I'm like, okay, that was cool. That was fun. What I was... and disappointed is probably too strong a word, but I'll just say it this way. I was never surprised. There was never a moment in this particular episode where I was like, didn't see that coming. I saw pretty much everything coming most of the way through. And not to say like, I'm so smart, I predicted everything. I'm just saying I wasn't surprised. There wasn't a moment where I'm like, I would never have thought that was going to happen.
And it's weird because if I split out production from content, the content from beginning to end, not for me. That's fine. That little girl playing Leia, awesome. I have no idea how old she is. She's very talented. Obi-Wan chewing the scenery, I'm glad he's having a good time. Getting back to, forgive me, in my mind, the right era of Star Trek, where we have
Star Wars.
Ooh. You know what? Nobody cares. There's no belt. There's no belt for that. The right era of Star Wars, where stormtroopers be stupid, and I guess they could just die left and right, and you don't know why, and everyone's suspicious of each other. So what? I don't know, man. From a production level, I really admire what they're doing. It's just not for me.
Yeah. And that's fine, because I think it is maybe still a little more for me. So it's probably not age related. It's more temperament related. Um, but it's not perfectly for me as much as say The Mandalorian was, where I'm like, yeah, I'm into this. I'm liking every moment. I'm liking Obi-Wan. So far, it's hard to compare it to Boba Fett because there were some great parts of Boba Fett that I have not experienced yet with Obi-Wan, but I think I might. So we'll see where it goes.
What,
But yeah, this was just a very straightforward. This felt like it was taken from a movie. That because we heard that Obi-Wan was originally going to be a movie and then they decided to split it up into 6 episodes. This really felt like an episode that I would not have minded any of this stuff really if it had been moving me from one part to another of a movie, but it didn't feel like a very suspenseful episode.
and and weirdly, it reminded me that neither does A New Hope. You know, with sneaking around with a cape and, you know, bonking stormtroopers on the head. That didn't happen.
And this may be age related. With A New Hope, I always felt like, well, I don't know if they're going to make it out. Is the Empire going to catch them? And so maybe I should feel that way about Obi-Wan if I felt that way about New Hope, because there's really no difference in the way the story is told. But I don't feel that way with Obi-Wan. I'm like, of course, it's going to make it out. Like,
In terms of the aesthetic and my appreciation for the world, I actually would put Obi-Wan ahead of Boba Fett.
mhm,
I don't know about the Mandalorian just because that's such a unique story they're telling over there, and I like it so much. But
mhm.
I acknowledge how well crafted everything is. Um,
Maybe
again,
Obi-Wan's better as a binge too.
yeah, that could be. That could be.
Yeah.
What if? What if?
Go on.
God,
Or
I think I.
just say, go,
I
hey
think-
man, ain't no wrong answers in a Bryce storm.
I think in another world where I didn't have to watch like 3 hours before this would have been a fine 30-minute Star Wars James Bond movie. This would have just been a fine little, like, we got to get into the base and we got to save the little twerp and then we got to get out of here. And if you did it
Yeah.
in 40 minutes, it could have been a nice short film.
Maybe
that
if it's
would have
not
been,
Obi-Wan
yeah,
and I
go-
don't
yeah.
have all of these things riding on Obi-Wan, I'm more interested.
because
Oddly.
it's so self-serious because it has to be inside the Star Wars canon square, and at the same time, like, I don't know, if it was just a little less serious, if it was just if it let itself be a little goofy and not need to be a big to do,
And
I think it could have
also,
been fun.
I know Obi-Wan survives because he's going to do the exact same thing again when he's older, right?
Uh,
There's not a tension about that. I also know Leia's going to survive. And I'm more interested personally in other questions that aren't being answered in this episode.
I also love the set piece of an Empire installation at the bottom of the sea for
Yeah, that's
apparently
pretty
no
cool, huh?
reason. Don't care.
Yeah.
It was pretty to look at. It's again, I get way happier with this series when I divorce production from my enjoyment of the story. The story there's just nothing there for me, but everything else is great.
I'm actually looking forward to next week's episode because we're going to get away from this and start moving towards a resolution. They obviously, Darth Vader learned how to put trackers on people when he from her, and so
Not a
we're
security
gonna,
camera though, huh?
We're gonna have a battle.
We have air
Uh,
tags, no security cameras.
No, security cameers don't. They get blocked. There's a technological
I mean,
reason
they
for that.
haven't invented cell
and
phones
there's a
yet.
subreddit
They're,
that
they're
will
still
explain it,
talking
I'm
into
sure. Yeah.
microphones.
They have lightsabers. They have a giant fortress and laser guns. They have, like, that's what really gets me. It's
We
like,
have
this is so
supercomputers in our
cartoony.
pocket, and yet not a moon hotel.
To be honest, I'm a big fan of retro futurism. You know, like Terry Gilliam's Brazil, where they're doing 1940s bureaucracy writ large.
I'm a big fan of that too. Yeah. And I also am a fan of, look, things that are technologically advanced sometimes don't immediately imply other technological advancements in reality, right? In reality, we look at things are like, how is it that we have got this but not this? And so there may be some great explanation. I don't need to have that inside the episode of Obi-Wan. He has to talk into a thing. That's fine.
Do you know who did that pretty well? Was in the backstory that if you bothered to go into the lore, that Dune did, where they talked about like, yes, we made machines. They got very smart. We decided they should all be banned,
Yes.
which is why there's no intelligent machines. This also, whatever question you got a question, I got an answer for you. It's me, Dune. But I don't know that tedium would have benefited Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
I'm just
All
saying,
right.
like, they have a scene where he's in a big futuristic space hallway and he doesn't get caught by a security camera that would be working all the time. They had to invent
it's the equivalent of they put a man on the moon, and yet
the robot has cameras. Okay.
I mean,
It has 8 cameras. Look, I'm looking on them. Like, there's 5
Bryce. You're 100% right. There ought to be infrared thermal imaging, but guess what, buddy?
Lasers.
It's not for you.
I've been trying to say that. I've been saying that for a decade.
All right, that is Obi-Wan, season 1, episode 4. I think we're making progress here. I really
Yeah.
do.
No.
Yeah.
This is therapy.
We're gonna need therapy after talking about the first 4 episodes of The Boys. My God, great show, very disgusting, and I even found myself cringing a couple times in that first episode, particularly. What did you think, Brian?
So I brought this up earlier on the Weird Things podcast, and I wonder if you had the same moment I had. I actually tried to start it once, made it about 15 minutes, and I got to the moment. Spoilers, that's what we do.
Yeah, we're spoiling now, so yeah.
Guy gets small, goes in the pee-pee hole, sneezes, explodes the dudes, right? And I wasn't upset at the gratuitous gore. I was upset that there was not one surprise in the first 15 minutes. And I thought to myself, I'm just going to go to bed. I'll watch this tomorrow. And I did. And then I had 4 hours to watch. And I was like, ugh, here we go. But I'll be damned if the boys didn't set up a chessboard that was so expertly crafted. That's the beauty of chess, is that at any moment, a bloodbath could be about to happen. But it is in the interests of both players to not activate the bloodbath. So when we get to that moment that Homelander says, go ahead, release the video, then finally I'll be able to do what I want, which is laser all of you and destroy things for fun and just be the bad guy. That'll be fun for me. And suddenly what was a powerful piece of leverage becomes totally useless. This is a masterclass of brinksmanship. It is great, and I really enjoyed it.
It's an interesting parallel to Obi-Wan, and this is not a spoiler for Obi-Wan, where we mentioned that it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, and if you want just Star Wars look, you don't care what the story is because you get to see pretty things, and then you may or may not like the story as well. With The Boys, I feel like if you want disgusting gore, explosions, bloody stuff, you're gonna love this, and there are people who love that. No judgment. And you also have a killer story. You have a chess piece story that will allow people who are like, yeah, I'm not really into the gory part of this, but I can deal with it because the story is amazing. And if you like them both, well, you're in heaven. So I definitely found myself like, again, not upset that they did the Ant-Man Thanos illusion, but found it like, man, 52, that's a little too close to my recent doctor visit. So I'm uncomfortable watching this. And my wife was like, it's a lot. But they go into other things that don't involve that, and it was fine.
So the other thing they do in The Boys, number one, they instantly overpower one side and then neuter that same side by showing why that would be irrelevant. Because you have an overpowered villain from the very beginning in Homelander, right? And they think they got him on the leverage and all that stuff. And we get to that moment where Huey has to say to Starlight, look, you got to keep rolling with this because now we're going to do the brute force method and so on. And it's layers on layers. It reminds me of the best parts of Game of Thrones when it was very, very good. This is one of the very privileged few shows that I love deeply that does very, very dumb, obvious ripoffs of real things, and I never, ever, ever mind it. And for example, A-Train deciding he wants to do a Pepsi ad. What was it? Kylie Jenner? Is that who it was?
Yeah.
A-Train also dangerously close to calling out Black Panther for being a very specific play for a certain demographic. It was unreal. I find this show deeply challenging and deeply fascinating.
I think this show is for people who want extreme cartoonish things, not just violence, but extreme cartoonish things in general. If you like that aesthetic, and for someone who doesn't want a good guys always win. Sometimes I'm in the mood for that personally. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? I want a good guys win story. That's not this. If you're like, I don't want a good guys always win. I want it to be challenging, but I don't want it to be dispiriting. I don't want to feel like there's no hope. I don't want it to be euphoria. I want there to be a chance, but just enough of a chance that it keeps it interesting. And they strike that balance perfectly.
Talk about keeping it interesting. Thomas.
Yes.
He was praying. That was the name of the octopus, right?
Oh, when he eats the octopus? I don't remember the name of it.
It was Thomas, right?
You
yeah.
think I would remember that?
I think it is Thomas, but
It was like the best moment. He's
well, you
staring-
said one of the names of your
Timothy.
host.
Timothy.
Timothy.
you.
That's
Thank
what it
you,
was.
Ken.
Damn
It
it.
is Timothy,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, I screwed it up.
Timothy Merritt.
That's my brother, actually, Timothy Merritt. Yeah, that was deeply uncomfortable in a different way than the first episode. That was oh man, that's just psychologically cruel,
And
as well as cruel to Timothy.
really, really well deserved too. Like another show that we watched had a bad guy that seemed like a villain from a movie series where you just need to know that the bad guy is going to be evil. Where here they do a pretty good job of like saying like, hey, we tried to do this the right way. We tried to achieve peace. We are doing this because explicitly this person is keeping us from peace. So we're going to have to do our big stupid thing. And they justify it completely. They justify it very, very well. And I really dig that. I think it's very aware of what it can be and the way it can be off-putting.
What I think it does great is show that it is extraordinarily tempting to give up your principles when the ends justify your means and there's no other way to do it. And that's an uncomfortable way to look at it, but it's a really, really nuanced way of getting you there.
And it's a conflict a lot like Invincible, where you're not you're dealing with an
Irredeemable and Invincible
existential
run through
threat.
my mind all the time. And in fact, Billy looks like Irredeemable and Homelander looks like Invincible. Like they're definitely referencing that for sure.
Yeah. Can I have one little thing.
Please.
In the first 10 minutes of season 3, a character appears on screen, pulls out his cell phone, and buys a product on Amazon.com with no irony attached to it. And that was very weird because I'm trying to see both angles.
That was not lost on me. Also,
But there's a
Connect Four.
prejudice
everybody
you have
in
as
Ted,
someone who is looking at it on Amazon. And
I know.
also everybody in Ted Lasso is using an Apple device,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah,
also,
you're right.
everybody in
Like-
House of Cards was using an Apple device. That had nothing to do with Apple or Netflix.
correct. I suspect
So-
it had a little bit to do with Ted Lasso, though.
It probably did, but it also, if you're looking for it, it's going to bother you more than if you're like, yeah, but people use iPhones, right? Like people shop on Amazon, and I didn't feel like it was, hey, everybody,
no.
look at my Amazon purchase.
He even hits buy now.
I just realized.
That's what you do when you buy it.
Yeah, that's a great advertisement.
Okay, here's a sentence
but
I was
also
about
it's
to say.
it's a behavior that looks perfectly normal if it's not on Amazon.
The thing I was about to say out loud is the only way they get away with that is if Connect 4 becomes a plot point later in the series. And we've seen the Connect 4 played 3 out of these 4 episodes.
Yep.
And there are 4 of the boys.
There are 4?
And also Kamiko.
Frenchie, Mother's Milk.
Huey.
There's
Billy
way more.
Butcher, Huey.
Frenchie.
Yeah.
Uh, and like I mean, they've got Starlight would be part of Kimiko.
Well, I mean, if we're
like
well, I don't know. Forget I said that.
Yeah.
My point is, they have an opportunity to make that pay off in some kind of non-sponsored way.
I mean, I'm sure they can.
I think you're being biased that it plays that way because you know it's paid for.
You are correct in that I am rooting for them to have any reason other than this will make money for Amazon.
Yeah, I already felt like if this wasn't on Amazon, I wouldn't have blinked an eye at it. I'm like, oh yeah, he went to a phone and he bought a thing.
I think they would have gone out of their way to change anything about it.
That would have been more weird.
It would have been more weird, and I wouldn't have felt like, I don't know. It's like accepting.
Like when you see the cone cola in a red can well, it's better to use the actual brand that people use. It bothers me more when I see the fake brand than the real one.
So
I don't know why I'm dying on this hill. It didn't bother me though. I should disclose that our friend Justin Robert Young's wife works for an Amazon company.
Yeah. That's true.
I should disclose I watched all 4 episodes of this show and enjoyed it.
It's great. No, it's a great show. Like, I don't know. My expectation was, oh yeah, The Boys is like a big dumb show that I like watching. And this season it really said, we know what you think we are, and we are going to justify ourselves in a good way, in a way that is very self-aware. And gosh, like that is really difficult to do when you've been painted into that corner, I think.
No, it is genius every time that they do a social move of like, aha, I've got the upper hand. No, you don't, because really, if you do that, like, I'm not going to care. Yeah.
Well, and it's one of those things where it's like the humans that are not soups feel powerless, but they actually have tremendous power. And the most powerful example of that is basically, when Homelander essentially says, well, I could and I want to destroy everything, but then you wouldn't like me. So that's the power you have over me, is this PR battle for popularity.
And meanwhile,
but even then,
Billy, who hates soups, is becoming one.
Which from what I was told by Justin was apparently that's very early in the comic books. Like they all get their hands on Compound V and they all are asking the existential question of just how far down this rabbit hole do we go?
Yeah. Kind of love that Huey's clothes came off when he got super speed too.
Also, I thought it was more of a teleport ability, but
yeah, because his clothes didn't rip.
Yeah, but also I love that they held it back. They gave us the 1, 2, 3. It's like we saw it once, we saw him load up again. I'm like, wonder where that third bullet. Hope it's yes, it is.
You knew that. I saw that coming. I didn't care. That was too good.
Do we feel like, because I think I mentioned this before, but by episode 1's performance from the deep, he's so irredeemable that we get to punish him forever throughout this series. Has he been punished enough, or do we still like seeing the deep be punished?
I'm over him being punished. I want him to do something more interesting for plot's sake, not for ethics or morals sake.
I mean, that's the nice thing about this season is that every character basically gets a soft reset like this.
Yeah.
Like they are up front and say like, hey, as long as you know who does and doesn't like each other, the why is really not important. And I think it's really smart because, I don't know, season 1 and 2 are good. I'm sure they're good. And there's no reason to need that lore. That doesn't need to be lore. It's just backstory, which I think is better. It's a cartoon.
And Starlight's position, it has evolved. She's not just a young ingenue. She's not overwhelmed and trying to cast around. She knows what her moves are, and she even has sort of a moment with Huey where she's like, okay, you put me in the place where I had to do whatever, so I have to pretend that Homelander is my boyfriend, and this is what happens when you do that. Sorry.
Uh,
But you're right, and this is what we have to deal with.
were you invested in any of the 80s stuff with Soldier Boy and all that stuff?
Mm, invested? It didn't bother me or anything. I don't know if I was invested in it.
I dug the idea of just taking us to a different world. It felt a little bit almost kind of Watchmen-y to,
Sure,
only
sure,
with a
sure.
bunch of, forgive the language, dipshits,
I was more invested in the movie with Charlize Theron as Maeve
Or no, as a Stormfront.
or Stormfront. Sorry, yeah,
oh, that's right.
I didn't realize that was
because
her. I just
Stormfront
thought
should
it
be
looked
blonde. So of course they're gonna cast make the character blonde in the movie.
blonde, but also dark eyebrows.
Yeah,
Highest points for me go to shouts out to Pride Month at Voigtland with Brave Maeve and Woke Walk and BLM BLTs and the cheapening of social causes for profit.
yeah. No stone left unturned in the boys. Any other thoughts before we wrap this one up?
No, dag nabbit, you did it again. You got me. I'm all the way in. It's good.
That's The Boys, season 3, episodes 1 through 4. And remember, next week, just episode 5. Let's talk about Barry, the season finale, season 3, episode 8. Barry wakes up. We don't drag out his recovery. He takes off from the hospital, heads out, and Sally now wants him to use his powers. But then Barry gets attacked, and Sally kills a man.
Yep.
And more happens, but I was just
No,
setting us up,
but
bringing us in to
like-
where that's kind of what sends Barry off to cover for her. He actually has a moment of what is kind-heartedness for him by saying, it was Barry who did this. I can take it. You can't. You need to go now. And not only does she go, but she tells him she loves him while she's on her way back home to Joplin without telling him that's where she's going.
You know what's funny is the closed captioning does not say "I love you too." It says "I guess so." That was that. I guess also, I sent you a picture of it because what I really wanted to do was point out how absurd it was, the fake typing that they were doing. But she does not say "I love you too." We do get a genuine surprise in that Barry, no, not Barry. I want to say Barry Zuckercorn. Gene
Cousineau,
betrays Barry. Shouts out to the scene of the show, NoHo Hank, and the soundscape of terror around him, and him summoning the strength to just find his way out. It is the most invested I've ever been in NoHo Hank's story.
And does it do the normal, like, everybody freeze, I've got a gun, just shoots her?
Yep.
Which I was kind of like, yes, that's what NoHo Hank would do.
You're like, yes, that's what love looks like.
That too. And also with an ambiguous ending of him hugging and then looking uncertain. And I kept waiting like, oh, did he get stabbed? Did he get shot? But we never find out, at least not this season.
Yeah, this is far and away the best episode of this season of Barry.
I think I would agree with that. I found the capture of Barry a little bit neat. I wouldn't go so far as to say Deus ex machina, but we are meant to think that. And I'm desperately looking up names right now. The
Alex?
Jim Moss.
Oh.
We are meant to think that Detective Moss's father is an incredible chess player, which maybe he is, but it hadn't really been established until they told us it was true.
Yeah. If the purpose of this season was to flip roles and to put Hollywood in the place of like literally okay with using, bullets and guns and power, and put Barry in the place of just trying to make it in a crazy world, I guess they did it. They sure did take a long time.
I never got that that's what they were doing. That might be what they were doing, but that's never how I viewed this season.
I,
And
yeah, I don't know what the season was, Tom. Could we talk just about the season in general, or
yeah, sure.
I?
Because I'm with you. I feel like what you're saying could be what they were trying, but if it was, I'm not sure that they got there. I felt like it was, for me, it was Barry trying to escape his true nature and unable to do so. But wow, they
But
stretched that one out.
But well, and I did appreciate that Barry finally is coming to terms with what he doesn't want to be to everybody. He doesn't want to be a gun. He doesn't want to be a tool.
Yeah.
And meanwhile we have Gene, at least indicating for most of the episode that he wants to use him as a tool, and you can't take him away from me. And his girlfriend saying, "Hey, about that gaslighting thing, maybe about that or whatever."
Jing
It's
Cousineau's girlfriend?
no,
you
no,
mean Sally,
no, 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 no.
Sally.
Barry's girlfriend.
Barry's girlfriend, yeah.
Because they got the recording of her blowing up against Janet. We should really learn the names of the characters.
I'm looking at IMDb now, so it helps a lot.
Yeah. I don't know, Tom. It's fine. It's fine.
I'll be honest. The best scene for me was Albert hunting Barry down, being angry at him, assuming that who he was burying was a job, which is not true, and that fits with Barry saying, "No, no, no, I'm just trying to get away from my nature. I'm doing this one thing. It's for Sally." Like, he doesn't say any of that, but you can see it in his head. That's what he wants to do, is explain, like, that's not what's going on here. And yet we still see Albert finally go, "But you saved my life, and that means something. So this stops now." And that is a wonderful misunderstanding of the situation, because Barry inside is jumping up and down saying, "Well, yeah, it stops now. That's what I've been trying to do for this past 3 seasons, is it stops now. Love it if you had some help for that." I'm curious what happens next there, because the next time we see Barry, he has jumped to meeting with Gene Cousineau.
Here's what I suspect is what we are meant to feel is Barry has been caught with the full force of the law. He will go into a box, and slowly everybody in Barry's orbit is going to realize that they need something from that murderous Barry engine that has benefited each of them. And so one by one, they're all going to reach out to him. And probably much like we've seen this season, he will be emotionally unreachable. And we get it. The whole world wants something out of Barry, and Barry just wants to be himself.
I could see a line where Barry's in jail and Albert tries to get him out with cooperation. Maybe even Detective May tries to get him out by helping him try to catch, the Chechens, and he just won't, because he's like, "You know what? It's better in here. I'm safer in here." And then something finally comes along. Maybe it's with Sally that convinces him, "No, I should try to help and get out of here." And that gets Barry back on the streets.
Every single person in this season and in this season up to this episode, I think maybe, fingers crossed, this is what they're really trying to say. Everyone is a coward using other people as shields, including Barry, who refuses to even acknowledge his own feelings, except for NoHo Hank. And in the last episode, he has the courage to break his bonds and do what it takes for one simple reason: because he loves Cristobal. He's maybe the only pure character in this entire season.
Sure. You know what? I don't agree with those, but I also don't want to overturn them, because it's a lovely way to it's a lovely way to look at this.
It is the kindest way I can look at this season.
Let's pretend Brian's right. I'm not even sure if Brian thinks he's
No,
100%
I
right,
don't think I'm right. I'm only advocate. Look, when you're a defense attorney, you advocate on behalf of your client.
And the prosecution rests.
Why does it
anything else?
have 97% on IMDb? Why does everybody like this show?
I don't know. Well, you're looking at IMDb, not Rotten Tomatoes. That's
Well, let's
from
look
there.
at Rotten Tomatoes.
All right,
Roddy
we'll do that.
tease, as they say.
Tease. Any other thoughts on Barry season 3, episode 8?
I mean, I'll show. Oh, it's only 99%. This is
Well, there you go.
a conspiracy, man.
Yeah,
There's no way this show.
What
is
if
that
it's
good.
not for you? Maybe it's not for you.
anymore. What used to be for us. but-
you.
Well, now I
really
know.
like season
Barry's
one.
not
Why?
I mean, should I ever find myself on Tinder, I'll know to just make my bio swipe left if you like Barry.
Oh, wow, really? Because I loved season 1. You did
Season
too.
1 was great.
Yeah.
Sorry, swipe left if
Swipe
you
left.
still like Barry.
Like the Barry after season 3. Well, that is Barry, season 3, episode 8. And that is it for us. Shorter spoiler in time, watch load next time. We'll be talking about Obi-Wan, season 1, episode 5, and The Boys, season 3, episode 5. Just those 2 for next time. So please watch accordingly and join in on the fun at patreon.com/cordkillers, where you get spoiler in time early. And until that time, we will spoil you next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.